This is the most famous monster photograph ever taken.
For 60 years, it appeared in textbooks, encyclopedias, and scientific journals. Expeditions were launched because of it.
A tourism industry was built around it.
Children around the world grew up believing in the creature it supposedly depicted. It was taken with a toy submarine.
In a bathtub. As an act of revenge.
Loch Ness is the largest body of fresh water in the United Kingdom by volume, 22 miles long, 1 mile wide, and over 750 feet deep. Its water is so dark with peat that visibility drops to zero within a few feet of the surface.
Whatever is in Loch Ness, you cannot simply look in and see it.
Legends of a large creature in the loch date back to the 6th century. St. Columba is said to have rebuked a water beast in the River Ness in 565 AD. But for most of history, the stories were local folklore, not international news.
That changed in 1933.
In April of that year, a local couple named John and Aldi McKay were driving along the newly constructed road on the north shore of Loch Ness when they saw what they described as an enormous animal churning the water in the middle of the loch. Their account was published in the Inverness Courier by editor Evan Barron, who used the word monster in the headline.
It was reprinted in London newspapers within days.
By the end of 1933, over 20 sightings had been reported.
Loch Ness was suddenly international news.
Into this frenzy stepped Marmaduke Wetherell, a big game hunter and film director hired by the Daily Mail to track the monster. He arrived at Loch Ness in December 1933 with great fanfare and quickly announced a discovery: large, four-toed footprints in the mud. Plaster casts were made.
Photographs were taken.
The Daily Mail ran it as a front-page story. Then the Natural History Museum examined the casts. The footprints were made by a dried hippopotamus foot, the kind sold as an ashtray and umbrella stand, common in British homes at the time. Someone, almost certainly Wetherell himself, had pressed it into the mud. Wetherell was publicly humiliated.
The Daily Mail fired him. He became a figure of ridicule. He did not forget. On April 21, 1934, a photograph was submitted to the Daily Mail by a London surgeon named Robert Kenneth Wilson. Wilson claimed he had been driving along the north shore of Loch Ness when he spotted a disturbance in the water and grabbed his camera. The photograph showed a long, graceful neck rising from the water, with a small head at the top, curving slightly forward. The posture was almost dinosaur-y and eerily similar to artist illustrations of the plesiosaur, the prehistoric marine reptile that many Nessie enthusiasts believed the creature to be. Wilson refused to have his name publicly attached to the photograph. He said he feared ridicule. It became known as the surgeon's photograph, and that distance from attribution actually increased its credibility. Why would a prominent doctor fake something if he wasn't even claiming credit? Scientists examined it. Photographic analysts examined it. No one could definitively say it was fake. The legend was sealed. The 1934 photograph launched 6 decades of increasingly elaborate attempts to find the Loch Ness monster.
In the 1960s, Oxford and Cambridge universities jointly organized search expeditions. In 1969, a submarine called Viperfish descended into the loch and found nothing. In 1972 and 1975, Dr. Robert Rines of the Academy of Applied Science deployed underwater strobe cameras and sonar equipment. The 1975 expedition produced photographs of what appeared to be a large diamond-shaped fin and a strange body, grainy, blurry, but undeniably intriguing. The Smithsonian Institution and the New York Times ran stories on Rines's photographs. Sir Peter Scott, one of Britain's most respected naturalists, formally proposed a scientific name for the creature: Nesiderus rhombopteryx. Skeptics quickly pointed out that Nesiderus rhombopteryx is an anagram of monster hoax by Sir Peter S. Scott said it was a coincidence. In 1987, a flotilla of 24 boats stretched across the entire width of Loch Ness, each equipped with sonar, sweeping the loch from north to south in the largest underwater search ever conducted there. They detected 3 large, moving contacts at depth.
Not fish. Not rocks. Moving biological contacts the sonar operators couldn't identify.
They weren't large enough to be a plesiosaur. They were larger than any fish known to live in Loch Ness.
They were not followed up. By the 1990s, Loch Ness tourism had become a major industry. The Loch Ness Monster Center opened. Millions of visitors came annually.
The creature appeared on Scottish road signs. The search had become, at least in part, a business. And the 1934 photograph sat at the center of all of it, unquestioned, unexplained, iconic. In 1991, an elderly man named Christian Sperling, Marmaduke Wetherell's stepson, gave an interview to researchers David Martin and Alastair Boyd. Sperling was 90 years old. He told them he had something he had kept secret for nearly 60 years. He described how, after the humiliation of 1933, Marmaduke Wetherell had devised revenge. He purchased a toy submarine, the kind sold in British toy shops at the time, about 14 inches long. Christian Sperling, a skilled sculptor, built a neck and head from wood putty and attached it to the conning tower. They tested it in a pond.
It floated. It looked convincing.
They then took it to Loch Ness and photographed it in shallow water. Marmaduke Wetherell then passed the photographs to his friend Ian Wetherell, who passed them to his colleague, Dr. Robert Wilson, who submitted them to the Daily Mail under his own name.
Wilson's distance from the hoax was the point.
A respected surgeon submitting a photograph had far more credibility than Wetherell, the man already caught with hippo foot tracks.
Christian Sperling died 3 months after giving the interview. His account was published in 1994 in the book Nessie, the surgeon's photograph exposed by Martin and Boyd. The photograph worked for 60 years for a simple reason: it confirmed what people already wanted to believe. The neck and head, photographed close-up in choppy water, appeared large only because there was no scale reference. The toy submarine was approximately 14 inches long.
The neck was a few inches of sculpted putty. Photo analysts in 1934 had examined it with the assumption that it showed a real creature, not with the question of whether it could be a small model in shallow water.
The photograph passed every test because the wrong tests were being run. Here is what makes the Loch Ness story genuinely unresolved even after the photograph was debunked. The photograph was fake. But it wasn't the only evidence.
Over 1,000 eyewitness accounts remain on record, including from police officers, professors, and clergymen.
Operation Deepscan's 3 unidentified sonar contacts were never explained.
In 2018, a team from the University of Otago conducted an environmental DNA survey of Loch Ness, collecting water samples and analyzing DNA traces shed by every living thing in the loch.
Their findings: no plesiosaur DNA, no large reptile DNA.
But they did find an unusually large amount of eel DNA, suggesting the presence of large European eels, which can grow to several feet in length.
Could a very large eel, surfacing from 750 feet of dark water, look like a monster to a shocked driver in 1933? Possibly.
Could it account for all the sightings?
Almost certainly not.
In September 2023, researchers at the Loch Ness Center conducted a major surface search and hydrophone deployment, the largest since 1987. Their sonar detected a large, unidentified moving object at depth. The footage was released publicly.
They couldn't identify it.
Marmaduke Wetherell died in 1939, 5 years after the photograph was published, never publicly admitting to the hoax. Dr. Robert Wilson denied the photograph was fake until his death in 1969. The photograph was definitively exposed in 1994, 60 years after it was taken.
By then, it no longer mattered. The legend had taken on a life entirely independent of any single image. Loch Ness doesn't need the surgeon's photograph anymore. The sonar anomalies are enough. The Edna questions are enough. The 1,000 eyewitness accounts are enough. The most famous monster photograph in history was a toy submarine with a lump of putty on it. And Loch Ness is still hiding something. If this investigation opened your eyes, hit that like button. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss our next revelation.